Shalom, I'm Rabbi Jonathan Ginsburg of the Ezra Habanim Dallas Township Jewish Congregation in Skokie, Illinois. This is my second installment of favorite Jewish jokes. First one is about a Jew who's been shipwrecked on a desert island, and over the course of time, he's there for 10 years. He builds some good buildings, and finally he's rescued, and the captain says, "We have to leave, the tide's going out." Fellow says, "I've been here for 10 years. I've built some nice things. I know we can't take them with, but I'd love for you to see them and take some pictures." So they walk 100 feet into the woods, and there's this beautiful little building, and the captain of the ship says, "What's that?" And he says, "That's my synagogue. Take a tour. It's really amazing, beautifully designed." He said, "Well, now we really have to go." He took some pictures, and the man said, "Wait, there's one more building you have to see." And they walk another 100 feet, and there's another little beautiful building. And they go inside and look at it, and the captain says, "What's that?" He says, "That's the other synagogue." Captain says, "Well, how many Jews are on this island?" The guy says, "Just one." "How come you have two synagogues then?" He says, "Well, the first one is the one I pray in, and the second one is the one I wouldn't be caught dead in." Second joke. The synagogue has a dispute about whether you sit or stand for this prayer, the Shema, the holy prayer. And half the congregation stands and half sits, and they argue every time it comes up twice a day. Well, finally, they're kind of disgusted with it, and they go to the oldest member of the congregation and they say, "Reb, so-and-so, would you please tell us, what is the tradition of this congregation? We can't decide. We argue all the time about whether we should stand or sit for the Shema. What's the tradition of this congregation?" The old man thinks for a minute and says, "The tradition of this congregation is to argue whether you stand or sit for the Shema." Third joke. Rabbi has a heart attack, he's in the hospital, and a couple of days later when he's healing up, the president of the congregation comes and says to the rabbi, "Rabbi, we had a board meeting last night, and the board wanted me to convey our sympathy on your heart attack, and the vote was 8-7. Next joke. Rabbi, a cantor, and the president of the synagogue are stuck in Africa, and the cannibals capture them, and they're going to cook them and eat them. And they say, "Which one would like to go first?" Well, the rabbi said, "Well, I know I get a last wish before you cook me. I have a 2-hour sermon I've always wanted to give. I've never been able to because the congregation can't stand still for that. I'd like to give that 2-hour sermon." The cantor says, "Well, I have a 1-hour prayer, particularly beautiful melody that I've always wanted to use that my congregation would never sit still for. I'd love to sing that 1-hour prayer." The cannibals then turn to the president and says, "What about you?" He says, "Let me get this straight. The rabbi wants to give a 2-hour sermon. The cantor wants to sing for an hour. Cook me first." Next. Jews are, two Jews, a husband and wife, are in a small plane flying over the ocean, and their plane crashes on an island. And they're sitting there, and the radio's broken, and the wife is frantic. The husband pulls out a lawn chair from the plane, lights up a cigar, and starts reading the newspaper. The wife says, "What are you, nuts? We're marooned here. The radio's broken. What's the matter?" Husband says, "I'm not worried at all. Let me just ask you a question. Did you make the pledge to the United Jewish Appeal yet?" Wife said, "Yes." He says, "Did you pay it?" "No." "Don't worry, they'll find us." And finally, fella calls his mother, aging mother, and says, "Mom, how are you?" And she said, "Not too good." "Well, Mom, what's the matter? How come you're not too good?" She said, "I haven't eaten in 4 months." "You haven't eaten in 4 months? Why not?" She said, "Well, I didn't want to have my mouth full in case you called." Hope you enjoyed those. Some Jewish jokes.